Hey, thanks very much, Danny. This is one of my favorite times of the year in pro wrestling and just in general. It's full gear, and that means the start of the AEW holiday season. And this is going to be one of the most important shows of the year for AEW. And like Danny said, the show is presented by DC, which is arguably, I think, quite possibly fair to say, the most significant sponsor ever for AEW. And we're really excited about that. And really excited about the show, and I want to answer all your questions. I hope to see a bunch of you at the pay per view and after the event at the Scrum. But for anybody who I don't get to here, hopefully I'll get to answer your questions there, and I'll try to answer as many of your questions about AEW Full Gear today as possible. So, with that, Danny, we could just start talking about the show.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Tony. We're going to lead things off with Courtney Rice with Women's Wrestling Talk, followed by Dave Meltzer with the Wrestling Observer. Courtney, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi.
Okay. Hi, Tony. Happy Full Gear is back in the Garden State. My question is focused on the AEW Women's Championship between Mercedes Moné and Chris Statlander. And we did see Mercedes Moné beat Red Velvet for the Ring of Honor interim television championship. And Chris Statlander is facing one of her biggest challenge because people have been picking Mercedes Moné as a favorite, but people tend to forget about Chris Statlander since she's been at AEW from the beginning. She's a former TBS champion. She beat Timeless Tony Storm to win the AEW Women's Championship for the first time. And my question to you is this regarding if Chris Statlander becomes victorious and retains the AEW Women's Championship, is it possible that she can be one of the leading ladies of AEW's women's division in the next 5 years or in the future?
Well, I think right now Chris Statlander is the leading lady of AEW's women division. She's a women's champion, and Mercedes Moné is also somebody who's arguably among the top wrestlers in the world and holds numerous championships, now 13 championships after becoming the undisputed Ring of Honor Women's World Television Champion last night, shedding the interim label. And I think that Mercedes Moné has done so many impressive things in pro wrestling, and in particular, since she's been in AEW, I've been blown away by her incredible work ethic and how hard she works in the ring and around the ring, scouting out opponents, planning matches, planning travel, and working above and beyond the schedule anybody would expect from a great wrestler. And Chris Statlander, as you said, is somebody that's been with us from the very, very beginning and has worked her way to the top and is focused on one goal. And I think she's made some good points about Mercedes, that Mercedes in some ways uh, can it can be difficult to focus on that one great goal of being champion when you're trying to win championships and dominate promotions all over the world. And Chris Statlander's focused on the big one, so to speak, in her mind, and that's the AEW Women's World Championship. And I definitely feel that Chris Statlander has been one of the leading ladies in AEW for many years. She's a former TBS champion, and she's somebody that's been with us in a prominent position from the first year of the company and has continued to improve and evolve and has come back from major injuries and returned even stronger. And uh, somebody that has not only worked really hard to develop as a pro wrestler and develop their wrestling skills and their physicality, but also somebody that's really grown a lot as a person. And I think the fans have heard that, and as she's started to become more and more comfortable and has done some of her best promos in some of these vignettes and videos that we've seen lately, and done some great commentary also as well, including in recent weeks on some of Mercedes matches. And I do think that Chris Statlander has proven time and time again that she's one of the top stars, and in particular, one of the top women in AEW. And I think that right now she's the top woman in AEW. And going into full gear, that's really what's at stake. You've got two of the top stars, two of the top champions, and so much gold between them. And they're fighting for this top prize, which is the AEW Women's World Championship. Thanks for asking.
Thanks, Courtney, and thank you, Tony. Dave Meltzer with the Wrestling Observer is up next, followed by Sean Ross Sapp with Fightful. Dave? Dave, you need to unmute your line. Okay, why don't we quickly try and go to Sean Ross Sapp, and then we'll come back to Dave Meltzer. Sean?
Cool. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Tony.
Sean,
thank you for
sorry to
doing
call you
this.
up from the on deck circle there, Sean.
It's okay. Enjoyed the interview with Ariel on Tuesday. Thought that was very good. There was one question that you were asked that I believe you were going into answering and didn't get followed up on. I think Ariel asked something else, but it was about lessons that you've learned throughout your years at AEW, whether it be positive or negative. Are there some of those that you're willing to share that maybe people don't know about?
What a great question. I mean, there are so many things. It's kind of amazing. Like we're all wrestling fans, and if you think about watching hundreds and hundreds of shows, and it's pretty amazing the memory of wrestling fans have, being able to call back certain shows and the time of year they happened, the year they happened, and pinpoint exactly the time and space of a pro wrestling promotion and all these different things happening around the ecosystem of a wrestling company at different snapshot times of a different year and a different month and a specific date. And it's really amazing. And when you think about doing couple shows a week and having multiple shows a week, 52 weeks a year, and doing this for many years, you have hundreds and hundreds of shows and dozens and dozens of decisions that go into each one of those. So when you really look at it, there are, I think, at least tens of thousands or probably more like hundreds of thousands of decisions that we've made. And there are countless times where you look back and I wish I had the time machine. And there's so much I would do with it. And I think all of us, like, it's the time cop, right? You go back and there are all the things you could do if you had the time cop technology to go back and change things. I don't. So I do think about the things, and there are things that I would do differently, but you can't go back and change them. So you just try to go back the next time that you go to work. To me, at least, I can't speak to everybody else, but for me, I learn things every day and try to reflect upon every show we do and bring that into the next one. And then if I went too far in one direction or not far enough in that direction, then try to do it better the next time. And I really believe that it's really important to evaluate these things so you do them better the next time. There's some things you just can't go back on because they're done, and that might not come up again. But it's a really good question. I think we all do it, and we all reflect on choices and things uh, along the way. Uh, and you can't like this is so. I mean, if I could change anything, obviously I would. I I can't go back and like find a way to put the Briscoes on AEW, and I wish I wanted to have the Briscoes on the AEW show, and I tried really hard. And I think that's one of the things I think about all the time is like how things could have been different, but I can't, and there's nothing I could have done differently. I did the best I could, and that's probably the one that I think about the most, to be honest, like every day. But there's other things that you think about, like, oh, I would have switch the order of these entrances, or I would have played a video here, or I should have used this promo on this night and played a different one on another night. There's all these things that could make a wrestling show better, and there's really big life decisions that could change everything you do. And it's important to like look back at these things, but I also think it's really important to know that like there's some of them you just can't go back and you're never going to be able to change, if that makes sense. Thanks for asking.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks, Sean. Let's try Dave Meltzer with the Wrestling Observer one more time, followed by Andrew Baydala with Final Bell Media. Dave, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Dave.
Hey Tony, how are you? Um,
Good.
so much is going on. Almost daily we hear something from WBD sale, splitting Max to a sports, TNT Sports app from Max and things like that. I know that you're under a deal till 2027, and I'm presuming that you're with Max till 2027. But like, do you have any kind of thoughts of different potential things? Because the one thing that I thought of is if you're on a new TNT Sports app as opposed to Max, it's going to take years to build that app up, and it probably still won't be anywhere near as big as Max. Max, when with Max, you're in 58 million U.S. homes, which is a ton. But I mean, as far as like between the sale, the split, and all that, is there anything that you can? I know. Is there anything you can comment on as far as like where you see the company in 2028?
It's a really great question, Dave. And this is one where I have to be really, really careful because there's some things that are kind of subjective. And, when if I comment on them, it's like my personal feelings. And I've really been trying to give good answers and give everybody the best insights I can through these questions because I know when I sit down and talk to you guys, it's important to try to give you guys the best information. And that's one where I have to be really careful about how I talk about it because this is everybody's jobs. And that's the engine that fuels the entire AEW economy effectively. And what's really great for us is over now, and it's crazy to say this, but now I've been working on this for over 7 years, and AEW has been around for almost 7 years. We've been doing events for over 6.5 years now, I think, or approaching, I guess, 6.5 years now, and have been working on the project for over 7.5 years, and have been talking to the top executives in Warner Brothers about it that long. And what's amazing is, as the company's changed and transformed, AEW has continued to grow and become an even more integral and integrated part of Warner Brothers. And I'm very, very proud of that. We've been effectively inherited by new managers who come in and they've come in and helped us grow the AEW business and backed up, really supported us. And I think that it's really incredible what the regime running Warner Brothers Discovery has done and continues to do to this day to support AEW. And I'm very grateful to David Zasloff and everybody for what they are doing for us. They continue to promote and uh, create opportunities for AEW week in, week out. And from the launch of Collision and expanding the AEW events onto HBO Max for the simulcasts on Wednesday Night Dynamite and Saturday Night Collision, and now the pay-per-views on HBO Max. And the coup de grace this weekend to be sponsored by DC, which is potentially the most valuable aspect of the entire property. And all of these things have come many years after we started working with Warner Brothers, and as a result of the great new management and what they've done with us. I did touch on some of this in an interview earlier this week, but to reiterate, through the NFL, and I'm very fortunate to have these opportunities, and it's really helped me be in a position to help start AEW and then do a lot of things in the world of sports media as a result of connections that I'm very grateful that my father for setting up through being an NFL owner and an extremely influential NFL owner who's very well connected and incredibly insightful and sits on numerous committees, and now I've been included on several NFL committees, including the Fan Engagement and Major Events Committee, to where I've been able to expand and build a lot of relationships in sports media myself. I'm the owner and chairman at True Media Networks, which is one of the top sports analytics and engineering firms in all of sports, working with a lot of the top teams and media properties. So, to the point you're making, Dave, I will say that we have, as you said, we have a great deal that has years left on it. I feel like we're in an incredibly advantageous position, knowing that even though we can't control what's happening out there, and there's a process that's been talked about, and it's uh, being openly discussed, and some of these things are now a little more transparent than they might have been a few months ago. I think that we are in a really exciting place because with the current management, we are a hugely grateful beneficiary of their support. And I am in particular a hugely grateful beneficiary of everything they've done for us, and very, very, uh, very thankful to David Zasloff and everybody for what they continue to do for us right now with AEW. And I'll just say I am very optimistic about the future and where this is all going in the future. I think AEW stands in a really great place, and I've never been more excited about AEW. And I think my family feels like they've never been prouder of the opportunity, or that they've never been happier to be associated with AEW. It just feels like we've really built something incredible. And now, as we look out at the media landscape and being able to uh, see some of the potential things that could happen, it feels like AEW is in an incredibly strong position. And it's all due to the support of the fans who were so great. As recently as this past week for Blood and Guts, we had great numbers for that. And seeing that kind of support, it definitely is the kind of thing that has continued to motivate our bosses to do such a great job promoting and pushing AEW content and finding new ways to integrate AEW into the company. And knowing all the potential things that could happen in the future, and based on all the publicly available information, I feel incredibly positive about the future of AEW right now. And again, that's due to the support of the fans and also the great wrestlers and staff of AEW. So that being as much as I can say, I would just say I am two things to sum up all that, Dave. I am incredibly grateful to what our bosses are doing, everything they have done and continue to do right now. And I feel really, 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 really good about the future. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Dave, and thanks, Tony. Andrew Baydala with Final Bell Media is up next, followed by Brian Zillum with PW Torch. Andrew?
Hey, Tony, how are you?
Hey, I'm great, Drew. Thanks for asking. How are you?
Good. Good luck this Saturday. Always a fan of the Full Gear pay-per-view, especially in Newark, New Jersey. I'm curious about the AEW National Championship. What was the thought process behind its creation, including the goals? What do you have in mind for it within the promotion?
I really appreciate you asking that. Well, I'm very excited about it. I am thrilled about crowning a national champion, and I think that AEW has built such a great brand. And here we have events across America. It represents a huge part of our identity as an American company. We're based in America. We put on wrestling shows. We have fans all over the world. We have stars from all over the world. We're an international business, but also we're based in the U.S. We started in Jacksonville, Florida, but we tour all over the world, and we have a large percentage of our events here. And also, we work with a lot of great promotions in America and in the countries bordering the U.S. And I think it's a great opportunity to crown a new champion, but also to create this new tradition, and also for AEW to uh, spread our influence, whether it be stars from the outside coming to challenge for our national championship here, or our national championship touring around America or other places, and visiting some other promotions. One thing I've never done is have an AEW champion show up and defend the belt at Ring of Honor. And that is going to happen at Final Battle. The national champion will be there and defending the championship. And that's something I'm excited about, because at no point in Ring of Honor in its history, before we owned the promotion or in the time since I took over ROH, has there ever been an AEW champion appearing and defending the title on the show. So I think that's going to be something very exciting, and there'll be a lot of opportunities for whoever is the national champion to make appearances in AEW on the top TV shows, but also to make some appearances around the world of professional wrestling. And we bring in great stars from other promotions. So it's very fitting that I think we have the stars of AEW representing themselves other places. I think Mercedes has done a fantastic job traveling all over the world representing AEW, and she has taken the championships of a lot of these promotions and bears that responsibility. I also think there's some merit to having a wrestler from AEW represent AEW and defending the championship on behalf of AEW, and not necessarily taking the championship of that promotion every time they come in, if that makes sense. And I also think this is going to be a great match. I'm really excited for the Casino Gauntlet bout. We have not had any Casino Gauntlet matches since All In Texas, which has been quite a while. And it's been one of my favorite matches to work on. It's probably my single favorite match to work on, actually. And I believe it'll be a fantastic, fantastic Casino Gauntlet match on what I think will be a tremendous pay-per-view. And I always love Full Gear. I always love a Casino Gauntlet. And in this case, it has these massive stakes to crown the first ever national champion. And that person will be associated with that championship, but also they'll be a great ambassador, I'm sure, for AEW. So thank you for asking. I hope that makes sense.
Thanks, Andrew, and thank you, Tony. Brian Zillum with PW Torch is up next, followed by Kevin Kellum with Sportskeeda. Brian?
Hi, Tony. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi. Good to talk to you, Tony. Tony, I wanted to ask, AEW's communication with fans and the wrestling media has evolved quite a bit, dating back to 2019. And one thing that's really just been a factor that's always stood out with the company is how accessible you remain to outlets of all sizes, something pretty rare in the industry. Coming out of your interview on the MMA Hour, how would you characterize the evolution of the media relationship that AEW has, and how important it is for AEW to continue that relationship to pursue the continued growth of the product?
Well, it's a great question. I think media is a lot like wrestling and other sports. There's people of all different backgrounds. People have different talents, different insights, and they bring different things to the table. And there's also, frankly, different skill levels. So I think that just like in all sports, and I think many endeavors, there's people at all levels of media. And I also think that in all sports and endeavors, it's important to scout out and find the top people. A lot of times they're the top young people, and a lot of times these people rise to the ranks. So there have been people I've worked with in the media and done interviews with, whether it was in the NFL or the Premier League or here with AEW. And I've seen these people rise through the ranks, and people that started sometimes not even writing. They started in assistant positions, and you see these people grow and become writers, hosts, both. And these are the things they dream to do. And, you know, now that I'm in my 14th season in the NFL and going into the 7th year of AEW, it's something I've been fortunate to do, is watch a lot of people rise through the ranks, and a lot of people I like very much. And I enjoy making the media appearances. the wrestling media in particular has some really, really savvy people. And I think the wrestling media also, you mentioned outlets of all sizes, including some small outlets. Well, there's some really talented people at those small outlets. Being at a small outlet doesn't mean that you're not a really good writer. It might mean that you like the outlet you're at, or it might mean that you are destined to do bigger things, or both. It could mean both. And I think that with AEW, we've been very fortunate, touring 52 weeks a year. You go up and down the road and you meet people all over the country and then all over the world as we travel internationally. And thankfully now we go around and around and you see some of these people again. Sometimes it's only once or twice a year, but it's always a nice thing. And I enjoy the connections very much that we make with the media. And I think it helps us as we continue to build those relationships. So I think our relationships have grown and grown as we've been out on the road. We continue to try to keep strong relationships, even with local media outside of Jacksonville when we were in the pandemic and all the shows were in Jacksonville. And that was a good thing for us, I think. There were some of you that even came into Jacksonville that don't live around there, may not even live in Florida at all, and traveled in for the shows. And that was awesome to stay connected. And whether it was things like this, talking on the phone, or Zooms, or or Microsoft Teams, or however we would do a video chat, it is always nice. And it's always great to do things in person too, and being out on the road and talking to a lot of outlets in person. I think you really built a great network of people that continues to expand, that we work with and get to talk about AEW with all over the country. And so I think we're really blessed, and we also have a great group of people working in the media. We've hired more people along the way. And Danny's been here for quite a while now with us, and he does a great job. And Adam, and of course Jim, and a number of other people. Some of them who you all know and join us on these calls, and we've had a lot of great people join us along the way. Matt just came in and have a really nice group. I do think having such great people on our own team can help make it more enticing for media to want to cover AEW and be associated with AEW, because I would hope, and from most of what I've heard, people like working with our AEW media reps. And so I think that's important too. So hopefully that gives you some insight into it. But I do think it's a great question. And we've tried to stay in contact with a lot of outlets, and a lot of you asking questions are people that we've been talking to since the very first announcement of AEW for 7 years, and are a lot of the base of the wrestling media, and or work with outlets that are the base of the wrestling media. Brian, I don't know if you're muted here. Brian, you're with the Torch, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I mean, okay. So there you go. The Torch is something I've been reading since I was a kid, and Wade's been covering the wrestling business for close to 40 years. And Wade is a person, again, we've been talking to about AEW since the very beginning, and so your outlet is a great example of that. So I think there's a number of outlets that we've been working with from the very beginning, but also we've added a lot of great relationships along the way. And just this week with AEW Full Gear, there's people I've seen this week promoting the event and promoting Blood and Guts last week. People that I've seen many times and see several times a year promoting the show on media stops. And then there's people I've met for the first time. And I think that's one of the really nice things about it. And we have a really nice group of wrestlers that are good people too. So people like talking to them because they're really charismatic and cool. And they treat the media, from everything I've heard, pretty well. So that's definitely the goal, and hopefully that's how you found it too. And I hope that was a good answer to your question. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks, Brian. Kevin Kellum with Sportskeeda is up next, followed by Samantha Shipman with the Daily DDT. Kevin?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
All
hi.
right, just wanted to be sure. Hey, pleasure to talk to you, Tony. You broke into a bunch of different things about the competitive landscape of professional wrestling. Fans always want to ask. You guys certainly feel like you're competing. I mean, you got DC. I don't know if anyone's going to get Marvel soon, but good on you for that. Um, can you talk about AEW Full Gear in this circumstance, not being in a crowded weekend? You guys can own the weekend in a way, and how you schedule events and how fans can kind of plan and feel these events, and where do you feel AEW lands in the general competitive landscape of professional wrestling? You have great partnerships. What's it like to have a weekend to yourselves now?
Oh man, I'm excited for this weekend in general. I hadn't thought about it like that. It's a really well articulated point. I just get excited about Full Gear and I'm so focused on what we're doing with AEW, but you make a really great point and hopefully it's beneficial. I am always really focused on what the AEW event is. And in this case, we have a huge weekend. It's Full Gear, which is one of our biggest events year in, year out. This is the seventh annual Full Gear. I think it's going to be an incredible show, and I'm really, really fired up for what I believe is arguably the most consistent AEW show year in, year out. It always, to me, is a great time. Full Gear. I've enjoyed every single one of them, and it's really cool that we've been able to find a great place where 3 out of the last 4 years, Full Gear has emanated from the Prudential Center, and we've had great results, great box office, and those are great fans. They support the shows and they make tons of noise, and they always make it a fun time. And I hadn't really thought about that until you said it, but it's a great point, and hopefully that's beneficial. For me, the focus is always on AEW anytime we have a show. I do like to watch a lot of wrestling from promotions all over the world, and I also like to go back and watch the AEW and ROH shows as much as possible. And I think we've been putting on really great shows this year. It's now uh, between AEW and ROH, well over 100 events already this year, and there's been some incredible events and great shows. And I think there's a lot of attention on how consistent and strong the AEW shows have been throughout this year, and I really appreciate that positive sentiment and also the constructive vibe around it all, because I feel like our fans can feel we're really trying and putting out shows throughout the year, that we're working hard to deliver really strong quality every time we go out there, and I feel as if our fans feel that and see that. And uh, I'm also very cognizant that there's a lot of attention on every time AEW puts on a big pay-per-view, that we've been delivering great events throughout this year, and Full Gear is going to have great expectations. And of course, it's really important to me anytime we do a big pay-per-view event. I want to live up to those expectations and make the fans feel good about supporting AEW. And I really like hearing the fans' feedback and insights, and hearing positive feedback, and even when it's 80, 90% positive, and then you can learn from that 10, 20%, that's good too. And I'll take that every time. And those shows that are the perfect 10 shows, those are great. But if it's an 8 or a 9 and then you learn something from it, from that one or two things, that's good too. And I think that's been a good philosophy for us, especially this year, delivering strong shows. I also think for ROH this year that we put out a lot of great events, and it's starting to get more attention. I was uh, I was in a challenging. In my opinion, I felt like I was in a bit of a challenging position during Death Before Dishonor, and it was also as I felt really good about the show. I felt like we were going to deliver a great show, and I think we did deliver a great show that night. And I was thinking, man, people are really going to like this show. And then early in the show, when Brightcove had the technical issues, I had to make a decision in the moment. And the decision I made was to put the show up for free on YouTube, and then to comp all of our customers a free month and give that free month to everybody going forward, but also give everyone access to the pay-per-view. And I think the silver lining of this was that it worked out really well to give a lot of people access to ROH that hadn't been watching the show recently, because certainly putting it up for free opened it up to more eyeballs and taking it out from behind a paywall. And there have been a number of times this year that putting up the events on YouTube, including with Death Before Dishonor, but also with Global Wars and some of the TV shows, has served us really well. And so you may see that again on the ROH YouTube, because I think it's done really well and brought great attention to that as well when we've had really strong events. There's been a few that were just YouTube exclusive shows, even just to give some fans some eyeballs on what we're doing, and the feedback on those has been overwhelmingly positive, and they've done really well. So that's been good too. And overall, yeah, just very, very grateful that we're getting these opportunities. And but I do think having that consistent quality there and hearing that this year, that's been really good for us too. So thanks for asking.
Thank you, Kevin, and thanks, Tony. Samantha Shipman with the Daily DDT is up next, followed by Dominic D'Angelo with Studio One Sports. Samantha?
Hi, Tony. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good, thank you. I wanted to ask, this is a little bit different than Full Gear. Obviously, we do have Kazuchika Okada, who will be wrestling this weekend, but he also was announced for maybe one of the most important matches of his career, potentially, as being Tanahashi's final opponent at Wrestle Kingdom. So how did that match come together? Was Okada always the plan? And can you talk a little bit about why the match announcement happened when it did, and maybe not sooner at something like a G1 or something like that, and why the announcement was made where it was?
I think that the timing of the announcement was important because, as I understand, Tanahashi was involved in some big matches up to that point with major stakes, and his spot he may have been in different matches, including championship matches in New Japan Pro Wrestling, based on how some of his other bouts went. This was what we'd always talked about. It made sense on the AEW calendar for a number of reasons, but also it made sense on New Japan's calendar, as I understood, for a number of reasons. So we were all very happy about the huge buzz around the announcement and the great ticket sales for New Japan Pro Wrestling with the announcement of Okada versus Tanahashi at the Tokyo Dome. And there's an incredible history with Okada versus Tanahashi. And for us, Okada was always the plan that he would travel, and it's an honor that AEW and Kazuchika Okada are in a position to work with New Japan Pro Wrestling and Hiroshi Tanahashi to promote Tanahashi's final match, and for Okada versus Tanahashi to be that match. And that's always what we'd talked about. And I'd met with president of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Tanahashi, and he and I had talked, and we were really excited about this. And he had come to a number of AEW events this past year, and we'd had some really nice discussions. And he was at Double or Nothing, and we had dinner, and this was what we talked about. And he was very excited about the possibility. And when I spoke with Kazuchika Okada, he was very excited about the possibility. And everybody thought that this was the biggest possible opportunity to make not only an incredible business success, but also, most of all, a well-deserved tribute to Hiroshi Tanahashi, who's one of the legends of worldwide pro wrestling, and in particular for New Japan Pro Wrestling, such a legend to the nation and to the promotion. And it's going to be a great event, and the massive ticket sales and huge attendance and all of the national excitement around the show are an incredible testament to Hiroshi Tanahashi, and I believe seeing an uptick in ticket sales and increased excitement, in addition to the already huge buzz around Tanahashi's retirement match and the big advanced ticket sales they had seen, clearly to me demonstrates that fans are very excited to see Okada versus Tanahashi in the Tokyo Dome on January 4th in Tanahashi's final match. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Samantha, and thanks, Tony. Dominic D'Angelo with Studio One Sports is up next, followed by Amy Nemedy with WrestleJoy. Dominic?
Hey, Tony, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're great.
Hey, all right, nice. Well, yeah, great interview with Ariel. Excited for Full Gear this weekend too. Did want to kind of follow up in a roundabout way about the national title. So I was actually listening to a Bruno Sammartino interview several weeks back. He did it obviously like probably about 10 years ago. And he mentioned about how he bought the local Pittsburgh promotion from Ace Freeman. And he happened to notice that Ace had a lot of titles on in his promotion. And he was like, why don't we just limit it to just this one title? And like maybe like the tag titles was the other one he was saying. But I'm kind of curious what your thought process has been over the length of AEW when it comes to titles, because at first you had very few and now you have so many that also includes ROH. So I'm kind of getting your perspective or your philosophy on having these kind of so many titles, I guess, involved in play in the promotion.
Well, sure. It's a lot of there's a lot of good things in that question, and that's an interesting story in that question too. I think it's important to look at the content that any wrestling promotion is producing and what the model for the business of that company is. And for AEW, the revenue is primarily driven from TV and pay-per-view. And we produce many hours of TV and pay-per-view. We also produce a lot of live events, and we produce over 100 shows per year and several hours per week. This is different than the beginning of AEW, because at the beginning of AEW, we only had 2 hours of television, and I had no association whatsoever with Ring of Honor, and certainly was not the owner and promoter of that company. So you mentioned the Ring of Honor Championship. So that changed, of course, when I acquired Ring of Honor. And I've largely kept the championships of Ring of Honor intact, except for adding women's championships and expanding the women's championships of ROH. I've made no changes to the men's championships. I've added a women's television title, and we've had a women's world TV title tournament. Now we have a new women's world TV champion, officially an undisputed champion with Mercedes Moné as of last night, adding the undisputed ROH World Women's TV title to her collection of championships as she fights to become the AEW Women's World Champion tomorrow. Or excuse me, Saturday, this Saturday. And as we've added a Pure Championship, which is a tournament we're excited about. We had a great match we filmed in that tournament last night that'll be airing next week, and more matches that'll be airing up to Final Battle, where we'll crown a women's Pure Champion. But with ROH, I did inherit their championships and have expanded the women's championships in ROH. In AEW, the company has changed, and we've added Collision, which is a hugely important part of the AEW weekly TV, and the lifeblood of the company is the AEW Warner Brothers partnership, of which Collision is a huge part. And we're a company now that produces twice as many hours of TV and twice as many pay-per-views as we did when we started. And we're also a much more successful company with TV rights that are many, many, many times higher than at the beginning of the promotion, and still several times higher than what they were even as recently as last year. So I absolutely think that it's important to look at the ecosystem of a wrestling company, and what you're describing for some companies could absolutely be the right model. And I also think for AEW, coming through the pandemic, the model we had where everything was Dynamite focused week in, week out, and it still is very focused on Dynamite, but also I'm very focused on Collision. And there's a lot more to cover. And there are events I care a lot about that did not exist at the beginning of AEW. I care a lot about Wrestle Dream and Forbidden Door and Dynasty. These are shows that mean a lot to me. World's End, I care a lot about. And that was not a thing at the beginning of AEW. So I do think as we've expanded and grown and looking at the base we had, which was Dynamite, and really having a pay-per-view calendar that was built around Revolution, Double or Nothing, All Out, and Full Gear, and most importantly, did not include All In, which is by far the most successful event we've added. Now, that was another thing that was a huge, huge lift out of the ROH purchase. Was it clearing the way to bring All In officially to AEW, adding that tape to our library, which is one of the most valuable videos we own, and also expanding one of the most valuable pieces of IP into our library. And now AEW All In is the biggest show in AEW by far. And it didn't exist at the beginning. So the company's very different than it was at the beginning. Our three biggest gates and our three biggest attendances ever are for All In, which is an event that we didn't have at the start of AEW. So I am and then Forbidden Door would be the other in the top four, and probably I would imagine the top 5 gates in AEW history. And then when you add in how big some of the Grand Slams, which again we hadn't started doing Grand Slams at the beginning, so we've really expanded and grown and built this thing a lot, and that's where some of the changes and evolutions come. And I'm very, very proud of what we're putting out this year, and I think we're also very well positioned for the future in pro wrestling. I really believe that, and I think we'll be in very good shape coming out of Full Gear and coming out of this year, going into next year. Thanks for asking.
Thanks, Tony.
Thanks, Dominic, and thanks, Tony. Amy Nemedy with WrestleJoy is up next, followed by Adam Bernard with the Sportster. Amy?
Hi, Tony. Can you hear me?
I hear you great. Hey.
Wonderful. So first, I'm going to apologize for my voice because I'm recovering from being sick, so it's a little cracky. I want
You
to
sound
talk
great.
to you. Thank you. I want to talk to you about the first ever Women's Blood and Guts. This has had something that fans were so excited about. And the women of AEW, they've been making a lot of history this year, most recently, of course, with this match. Now, hardcore matches are no stranger to the division, but they had a lot to prove, and they ended up with one of the most critically acclaimed matches this year. So the question that I have for you is, can you talk about the reaction in the back as this match was occurring, particularly your reaction and the overall reception of the first ever Women's Blood and Guts, and if we'll see something like this in the future? Thank you.
Yeah, we'll absolutely see the women of AEW lock up in Blood and Guts someday again. And the women in AEW absolutely knocked it out of the park. As with all of our Blood and Guts matches, are very hard-hitting encounters. And I'm really proud of everybody involved and very excited. It was a huge success for everybody. And I'm grateful that there were not more serious injuries than we had. And the reception was fantastic. The network was so happy. And to have TBS and HBO Max happy with the show, that's the most important thing, in my opinion, beyond the safety of the wrestlers and fans and putting on a good, safe event. The most important thing we can do after we secure the safety of everybody at the show, is to have the network be happy with the quality of it and the execution of it, and they were thrilled with it. So that was awesome. And the event was a critical and commercial success, and it was the best kind of thing. And everybody had a lot of fun. And there's some really hard-hitting rivalries, and there's a lot of things that are going to come out of that match, and there's a lot of unresolved anger that continues to be taken out on each other in AEW between these very, very very, very brave and hard-hitting women who went into that blood and guts match, and they all came out of it as part of what was a massive success for AEW, but also something that it seems like the wrestling fans really enjoyed, which is also really important to us. So I was really pleased with it, and I think everyone in AEW was thrilled with it. Thank you for asking about it, because I thought the women's blood and guts was tremendous, and I had spent a lot of time with them myself, and they worked really hard on it, and I met with both teams extensively, and had a lot of great things to say about how hard they worked and prepared for this. And I'm very proud of everybody in AEW, and in particular, I thought the women in Blood and Guts, they did a great job. So thank you for asking. And also, I thought the men did a fantastic job. I know you didn't ask, but I figured somebody will read the quote and think that I didn't want to bring up, or that I only mentioned this, and I just have to. I would be remiss if I didn't also mention. I thought that the guys did a fantastic job, and there have been a number of men's Blood and Guts matches, but some of them have featured really terrible injuries and gruesome occurrences. And I was also glad that coming out of the men's Blood and Guts, that we didn't have more really serious injuries. And thankfully, between the women and men, there were no career-ending injuries or even year-ending injuries, where I think everyone's going to be able to come back from this. And I really appreciate you asking about the women in particular, because I was so happy for them, and they accomplished something that nobody had ever done, and they accomplished it with flying colors. And absolutely, it's something we'll do again. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Tony. We've got time for just a couple more. So Adam Bernard with the Sportster is up next, and then we'll finish up with Bill Bodkin with the Pop Break. Adam?
Hey, Tony, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you great. Hey.
Awesome. I'm glad it went better around this time for me. Thank you for your time, sir. As always, I appreciate it. I wanted to ask you about Keith Elliott Greenberg's book. This book is All Elite. I know that you have a book signing with Orange Cassidy coming up on Friday at Bookends in New Jersey. And I wanted to know if people who are coming into this book, maybe reading Greenberg's writing for the first time, what was your take on how Keith portrayed the company and its inception? And what do you think that, what are you most excited about fans reading in this book overall? Thank you for the time.
Well, I thought Keith, I've seen the book, and I was somebody Keith interviewed for the book. We produce a lot of content, so I'm not the editor of the book, but from what I've seen, and not having fine-tooth combed every page and dotted every I and crossed every T, so to speak, I absolutely have enjoyed it and thought Keith did a great job. I enjoyed my interview with him, and I know Keith's worked on a lot of tremendous wrestling books and had a lot of success as a wrestling writer, and Keith has written some of the top performing wrestling books. So I was excited to have him work with AEW, and I enjoyed my interviews with Keith, and from everything I've seen, it's been tremendous. And I look forward to getting through Full Gear and into what is one of my most exciting and busiest times of the year here, and hopefully more around the holidays. I'll be able to sit down and enjoy and finish the book. So thanks for asking.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks, Adam. We're going to finish up with Bill Bodkin with the Pop Break.
Hey, Tony, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Great, thanks, man. Talking about Okada versus Tanahashi, I had to ask, any chance we're going to be getting a second Wrestle Dynasty in Japan this year?
This year, I don't think that's going to be the case, but I have to say, They have to be thrilled, as we are thrilled, and I think everyone is excited about the huge ticket sales for Wrestle Kingdom and the big buzz around January 4th at the Tokyo Dome. This year, we don't have the Wrestle Dynasty event planned, but it was a very successful event and it went really well, and something we're definitely open to doing with them in the future. And as we have Forbidden Door as part of the partnership, Wrestle Dynasty went very well, and it was a really awesome show. It's one of my favorite shows all year still. So I think absolutely that's something we'd like to do again. And right now, New Japan Pro Wrestling is very focused on putting on a great Wrestle Kingdom, and they should be really proud, and we're really proud of them and the fans in Japan, and of course Tanahashi and Okada. And I look forward to seeing Okada coming up very soon. Just I guess coming up in about 48 hours for the tailgate brawl, and he was looking forward to the match until he found out who his second trios partner was, and I'm very much looking forward to that one. So there's not any plans for this year to do Wrestle Dynasty, but it's something we're definitely on both sides, AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, very open and excited about doing again.
Thanks, Bill, and thank you, Tony. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up here today?
Yes, I do have closing thoughts. I got some great questions today. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for staying on and talking to me. This is a great week for us. We built a really nice tradition here, I think, with Full Gear around this time of year, and I really enjoy catching up with you. And another tradition going into its third year is the Continental Classic. I'm very excited for the Continental Classic, and coming out of Full Gear, early next week, we'll be announcing the participants. In a perfect world where there are no injuries and no major occurrences that would affect the field coming out of Full Gear, I would love to announce the field before Full Gear. Now, I will say, having worked on these tournaments the past couple years, I would not change the process, and here's why. I think the benefits of utilizing Full Gear to evaluate the health of the roster, and knowing the past couple of years that had I announced the field going into Full Gear and put on a strong Full Gear and everybody went out and wrestled as hard as they did, the field would have changed a lot with injuries, and also some of the ideas would have changed. Last year, I thought was even better than the first year, and so far the Continental Classic 2023 and the Continental Classic 2024, I would hold up there with the very best things AEW's done. And what I'm very proud of is in 2 years and all these matches that we've had and all the entrants in the Gold League and the Blue League over the past few years, I've only had to make one change due to injury in 2 years. And it was, at the time, a relatively easy change to make because the person got injured very early with Juice Robinson. It was a terrible change. It was somebody that's a really valuable wrestler. I hate to have to make this kind of change. If you are going to make a change like this, it was a little easier mechanically because it was a person that had not accumulated any points yet. And did not complicate the situation even further. I will promise you that this is going to be a great, great Continental Classic. And I promise that I will spend the hours coming out of Full Gear evaluating the health of the people in Full Gear, talking to them the next day, seeing how they are, and making sure that we don't have major injuries, most importantly head injuries, but really any kind of injury that would slow somebody down. I want to make sure people are healthy going into the tournament so that they're capable of finishing the tournament, because that's very important. And last year, even with that one change, I thought the execution of the tournament and the quality of the wrestling that we put out throughout the Continental Classic embodied the very, very best of AEW. And I think that's been the case 2 years in a row. And I actually thought last year was like The Godfather 2, the sequel, that somehow lived up and may have even in some ways been somehow even maybe in the eye of the beholder, even better in ways. So I'm very proud of it. I in a perfect world would announce the field or would have announced the field, but I really think it's important to evaluate the health of the wrestlers after a show like Full Gear, where you have so many of your top stars in action. And these are the kinds of people you're going to want in the Continental Classic starting next week. So one of my favorite things about this time of year is Full Gear, but now one of my favorite traditions and things about this time of year is also the Continental Classic. And that kicks off next week, Thanksgiving Eve. Dynamite and also Collision is on Thanksgiving next week. And it's going to be really, really an exciting thing for us to have a Continental Classic. People be able to sit home and watch it with their families. Of course, Dynamite on Thanksgiving Eve, that's been part of the formula, but now also to have the Continental Classic on Thanksgiving night. And there's such a great tradition of pro wrestling on Thanksgiving, and now being able to bring the Continental Classic to Thanksgiving and Christmas viewing with the Christmas shows that we do, Dynamite on 34th Street and Christmas Collision. We just announced those last year. Those were shows that were instrumental, and they will be instrumental again this year in determining who advances in the Gold League and the Blue League in the Continental Classic. And I can't wait to talk about the Gold League and the Blue League next week, and we're going to have a great time. But I'm also very focused on this Saturday, Full Gear. It's going to be one of the greatest pay-per-view shows in what I think has been the single greatest year start to present of AEW shows. I really appreciate all of you being here today. I think that, as I've said before, a lot of you have covered AEW from the very beginning. You've been on these calls and come to the shows, the pay-per-views, the dynamites, the scrums. You've been at the shows and covering AEW from the very beginning. And some of you have joined us along the way, but I am really grateful. I mean this. Thank you for covering AEW. Thank you for giving us your feedback. Anytime we get constructive feedback on anything, I really appreciate it. And a lot of you make some really great points, and I like to hear them. And I also am very grateful to you for giving AEW the coverage and for dedicating your time to pro wrestling. Thank you very much, and I hope that you all have a great afternoon. And if I don't talk to you before then, for some of you, if I don't see you after the pay-per-view, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. And Danny and Robin, you both do a great job hosting these events. Danny and Robin, I hope you also both have a great holiday, and I'm very grateful to you both also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony, and thanks everyone for joining today. We're now at the end of our time, but we'll be distributing an audio recording to all attendees shortly. Thank you again for being a part of today's call. We look forward to you joining us for AEW Full Gear presented by DC in Newark this Saturday. Have a great day.